Why is he giving me this? Why her? Just take it.
I understand betrayal.
I don't understand this. Why does he look at me like that?
She doesn't trust me yet.
He remembered me?
No.
I remember everything about her. He didn't even look at me.
Hi.
Why does this feel so strange?
Perhaps you would join me for dinner.
Why do you want dinner? Should I say yes? Why am I so nervous? This has to be right. No, try again.
It's only dinner. She's really going.
He's already here.
Shame.
She came. Not now.
Something's wrong.
She saw his name on the gift box before she saw his face, and for one strange second, Nia thought somebody had made a mistake. Because men like Yi-min Han did not hand women like her wrapped presents in the middle of a luxury hotel lobby. Men like him had bodyguards, drivers, private elevators, and lives that did not intersect with hers, unless something had gone very wrong. So when the tall Korean billionaire stopped in front of her, holding out a sleek white bag with her name written on the card, Nia just stared. "Ms. Nia Walker?" he asked. His voice was calm, polite. Almost too calm, Nia blinked. "Yes." Yi-min Han gave a slight nod, then looked at the bag again as if he was making sure he had the right person. "This is for you," he said. Nia did not move. Behind her, her best friend Tasha made a soft sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a laugh. "For me?" Nia asked carefully. "Yes." "From who?" Yi-min's expression did not change. "From me." That was when Tasha's smile froze, not because the gift was expensive. Tasha loved expensive things. No, it was the fact that the man had handed the bag to Nia, and not even looked at her like she was standing there. Nia, who was used to being overlooked in rooms full of polished women and polished men, felt heat rise slowly into her face. "I think you may have the wrong person," she said. Yi-min's gaze stayed on her. "I don't." That was all he said, no explanation, no wasted words, just that one line, so steady it made the air around them feel different. Tasha stepped forward immediately, her voice sweet in the way sweet voices often were when they wanted something. "Excuse me, sir," she said, smiling too brightly. "We're actually just in the middle of something, but thank you. That's very kind." Yi-min turned to her for the first time, not fully, just enough to acknowledge she was there. And then, to Tasha's visible shock, he looked right back at Nia. "I'm sorry," he said to Nia, not Tasha. "I didn't mean to interrupt your evening." Nia frowned. "You didn't interrupt anything." Something like amusement flickered in his eyes. "Good," he said. "Then I'll leave this with you." He placed the bag carefully into her hands. It was heavier than it looked. Nia stared down at it, then back up. "I don't understand. I'm aware." That almost made her smile, almost. Tasha, however, did not smile at all. Her expression had changed in a way Nia knew too well. Tight around the mouth, still around the eyes. The kind of stillness that meant envy had arrived and was trying to behave itself. Yi-min glanced once at Tasha's face, then back at Nia. "If you open it," he said, "you'll understand a little more." Nia's fingers tightened on the handle. There was something unsettling about the way he spoke, not threatening, not dramatic, just certain, like he already knew what the bag would do to her life. "And why would I do that?" she asked. His answer came immediately. "Because I think you've been waiting your whole life to be seen." Nia went completely still. Tasha looked sharply at her, then at him. Nia's throat tightened. Nobody had ever said anything like that to her before, not out loud, not in a room where it mattered, not with that kind of quiet precision. "I don't know you," she said. "I know." Then why are you here? Yi-min held her gaze for a moment too long. Then he said, because you dropped your phone at the airport last week, and when I returned it, you thanked me like it was the first kindness you had received in years. Nia stared at him. The memory came back in a rush. The crowded terminal, her rushing to catch a call, her phone slipping out of her hand, a stranger picking it up and handing it back before she could even think to ask. That stranger had been him. You remembered that? She asked softly. I remember everything that feels important. Tasha gave a tiny, sharp laugh. That's very convenient, she said. Yi-min ignored her completely. He looked only at Nia and said, open it. Nia hesitated. Then slowly she pulled the ribbon free. Inside the bag was a phone, not just any phone. Her exact model, same color, same protective case, same small crack in the side that she had once tried to hide with her fingernail polish. Her breath caught. Below the phone was a folded note. She opened it with shaking fingers. It said only this, you looked at me like a person. Nia lifted her head so fast it almost made her dizzy. Yi-min was still watching her, not smiling, not flirting. Just watching like he had offered something fragile and was waiting to see if she would throw it back. Tasha laughed again, louder this time. Oh, please, she said. That's a little dramatic. Nia did not look at her. Her eyes stayed on the note. I didn't say anything special to you at the airport, she said. Yi-min's voice softened slightly. You didn't have to? For a second, the whole lobby seemed to fall away. The chandeliers, the polished floor, the couples passing by, the staff pretending not to notice all of it. Nia felt something unfamiliar moving in her chest. Not joy exactly. Not yet. More like the dangerous beginning of hope. Tasha touched Nia's arm lightly, but the touch felt wrong. Too quick. Too possessive. Nia, she said, smiling through her teeth, come on, we need to go. But Yi-min spoke before Nia could answer. If you're leaving, he said, I'd like to know your name. Nia turned back to him. He already knew her name. He knew it too well, and still he asked like it mattered. That was the moment Tasha's face changed for real, because she knew it too. This was not for show. This was not random. This man had noticed Nia, and worse than that, he had chosen her. Nia swallowed hard. Nia Walker. Yi-min nodded once as if confirming something to himself. Then he said, I'd like to take you to dinner. Tasha's head snapped up. Nia barely heard her. All she could focus on was the fact that Yi-min Han was standing in front of her, in a lobby full of people, asking her out with the same calm seriousness a man might use to offer someone safety. She should have said no, she knew that. She should have said no, thanked him, and walked away before the evening became something she could not control. But the note was still in her hand. And the look in his eyes was not careless, it was patient. As if he was already prepared to wait for her answer, whatever it was. Nia took a slow breath. Then she said, why? Yi-min did not look away. Because, he said, I'd like to know the woman who thanked me like kindness still meant something. And somewhere beside her, Tasha went very quiet. Nia should have said no. That thought crossed her mind so clearly it almost sounded like a voice beside her. And yet she stayed where she was, holding the bag with both hands while Tasha stood too close on her left, and Yi-min Han waited with that same impossible calm. The lobby noise returned slowly around them, like the world was remembering how to breathe again. Tasha recovered first. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile people wear when they are trying not to show their teeth. That's very generous of you, she said to Yi-min. But Nia doesn't rush into things. Yi-min looked at her for half a second, then back to Nia. That's good, he said. Neither do I. Tasha's smile tightened. Nia noticed. Of course she noticed. She noticed everything, even when she pretended not to. The little shifts in tone, the almost invisible tension in a room. The way Tasha's voice changed whenever she felt someone slipping out of her control. Nia looked down at the phone in the bag again, her exact model. Exactly the one she had been planning to replace but never quite could because there were always more urgent things. Rent, food, utilities, sending money to her aunt. Life had a way of crowding out the small repairs. She looked back at Yi-min. You remembered my phone, she said. He gave a small nod. You looked disappointed when it cracked. Nia blinked. That's not what I looked like. It is to me. That answer landed in her harder than she expected, not because it was dramatic, because it was observant. A man who noticed that kind of thing had to be paying attention in a way most people didn't. Tasha folded her arms. You really should have just mailed it. Yi-min finally glanced at her again. I wanted to hand it back myself. Why? Tasha asked quickly. He did not answer immediately. His eyes returned to Nia. Because, he said, some things should not be returned through a system. Nia frowned a little. What does that mean? It means I wanted you to see who was giving it back. The air between them shifted. Tasha's nails pressed into her own palm, though she tried to hide it. Nia saw that, too. And this time, instead of feeling uncomfortable, she felt something else. Clarity. Tasha was jealous, not amused jealous, not teasing jealous, real jealousy, the kind that sharpened every word. Nia had known Tasha long enough to recognize that look. She had seen it before in restaurants, in elevators, around men who paid too much attention to her or not enough. Tasha had always been the kind of woman who needed to be the center of a room even when she acted like she didn't care. Nia suddenly understood that Yimin's attention was not just a surprise to Tasha. It was an insult, and that realization made Nia quieter. Yimin seemed to notice that too. You're thinking too much, he said gently. Nia gave a short breath that might have been a laugh. I always think too much. Not always. She looked at him. He meant that. He meant it with the same calm he meant everything else. Tasha leaned in a little. Nia, we were literally supposed to meet your cousin for dinner in an hour. Nia turned to her slowly. We were, Tasha's face flickered. Of course we were. Nia watched her for a beat. That was another thing about living a long time with people like Tasha. You learn to hear the small cracks before they widen. Tasha had not mentioned any cousin, not once, which meant the plan was either improvised or fake, most likely fake. Nia let the silence sit there. Tasha cleared her throat. Anyway, we should go. Yimin's gaze stayed on Nia. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. The words were simple. But the way he said them made them feel like a choice instead of a pressure. Nia had almost forgotten what that felt like. Dinner, she said, surprising herself. Tasha turned so fast it was nearly a full-body reaction. What? Nia looked at Yimin, then down again, then back up. I'll have dinner, she said. But only dinner. Yimin's expression changed by a fraction. Not a grin, not victory, just the quiet relief of a man who had been given permission to continue breathing. Only dinner, he repeated. Yes, that sounds fair. Tasha stared at her like she had lost her mind. Nia ignored it. Yimin reached into his jacket and pulled out a card. He held it out, but he did not step closer. If she wanted it, she would have to take it. That mattered to her more than she expected. Nia took the card. His fingers brushed hers for the briefest second, warm and steady. She felt it all the way up her arm. I'll text you, he said. You already have my number, she asked before she could stop herself. His eyes held hers. Yes, Nia should have asked how. Instead, she said, that's slightly unsettling. A flicker of amusement touched his mouth. I'm aware. That almost made her smile. Tasha did not smile. She was watching the exchange with a kind of forced patience that was clearly draining her. Nia could practically see the questions burning behind her eyes. Who was this man? Why was he interested? Why her, why not me? The last question wasn't spoken, but it was there. Yimin gave a small bow of his head, polite and precise. I'll see you at 7, he said. Nia frowned. You're very confident. He looked at her as if the answer should have been obvious. I have a reason to be. Then he walked away, not dramatically. Not with the kind of dramatic exit that begged to be watched. He simply turned and left the lobby as though the space had temporarily belonged to him, and he had already decided he would return later. Nia stood there for a second after he was gone, still holding the bag. Tasha broke first. What was that? Nia looked at her. Dinner. No, I mean that. Tasha's voice sharpened. What was that with him? Nia's shoulders lifted slightly. He gave me a phone. Tasha let out a frustrated laugh. You know exactly what I mean. Nia looked at the card in her hand, Yimin Han. A number, a line beneath it with a restaurant name she had barely seen before. She felt strange, not dizzy, not giddy, just aware, very aware. He noticed me, Nia said quietly. Tasha's face darkened for a second before she covered it again. Well, of course he noticed you, she said too fast. You looked nice tonight. Nia turned her head. Tasha had chosen those words carefully. Not beautiful, not stunning, just nice. Nia filed that away. And then, to her own surprise, she said, You don't need to sound so bothered. Tasha's eyes widened slightly. Bothered? I'm not bothered. Nia almost laughed at that. But there was something else now, something turning slowly under the surface of the evening. She could feel it. Tasha stepped closer and lowered her voice. Nia, men like him do not just show up, she said. They don't just hand out gifts and ask women like us to dinner for no reason. Nia's expression shifted. Women like us? Tasha hesitated for half a beat, then recovered. You know what I mean. No, Nia thought, I really don't, because that sentence had landed in the wrong place. Women like us. As though she and Tasha were the same in the only ways that mattered. But they were not. Not really. Tasha had always carried herself like someone waiting to be chosen. Nia had long ago learned to survive without expecting it. That difference sat between them now, quiet and sharp. Nia slipped the card into her pocket. I'm going to dinner, she said. Tasha stared at her. You're serious? Yes. With him? Yes. Tasha's face shifted again, and for one brief second the jealousy showed through so clearly Nia almost pitied her. Almost. But pity had never protected Nia from anything. Tasha forced a smile. Fine, then I guess you should go make yourself available to him. The words were soft, too soft. Nia heard the edge in them anyway. She looked at her friend for a long moment, then she said, That's a strange thing to say. Tasha shrugged. It's just dinner. No, Nia said, still calm. You don't think it is? Tasha looked away first. And that told Nia everything she needed to know. Something had just changed. Not just because a billionaire had asked her to dinner. Something deeper. Something old. Because the look on Tasha's face was not about the phone or the card or the restaurant. It was about the fact that Nia had been seen first, and Tasha had not. Nia tucked the bag under her arm and started walking toward the exit. Tasha followed, still quiet now, which was worse than when she was speaking. When they stepped outside, the evening air felt cooler than it should have. Nia paused near the curb and looked down at the card again. Dinner at 7. She did not know what this was. She did not know why him. She did not know why the thought of seeing him again made her stomach turn in a way that was more nervous than afraid. But one thing was clear. Yi Min-han had noticed her. And Tasha had noticed that he noticed. That would matter later. Nia just didn't know how much. Yi Min did not wait until 7 to think about her. He told himself he had work to do, calls to return, emails to answer, a deal in Seoul that still needed attention, and a flight list waiting on his assistant's desk. He told himself all of that with the kind of discipline that had once made him excellent at ignoring distractions. It did not work. Nia Walker stayed in his mind like a line of music he could not stop hearing. He remembered the way she held the gift bag like it might vanish if she breathed too hard. The way she looked at the phone with disbelief, before she looked at him with suspicion. The way her voice had changed when she said thank you, like gratitude had been something she was not used to using out loud. That bothered him, more than it should have. Because Yi Min-han was used to being around polished people, useful people, ambitious people, people who knew exactly how to position themselves near money and power without pretending otherwise. Nia had not moved that way. She had looked at him like a person first. That was rare. He sat in the back of the car and stared out at the street while his phone buzzed again in his hand. His assistant Min-seo had called him 3 times. He answered on the 4th. What? He said. There was a pause on the line. You sound cheerful, sir. Try again. Your mother wants to know why you canceled dinner. Yi Min closed his eyes for half a second. She does not need to know everything. She usually believes she does. That is because you tell her too much. I tell her the minimum required for survival. He almost smiled, almost. Then his assistant said, Do you want me to move the Seoul meeting? No. Another pause. And the dinner tonight? Yi Min looked at the address in his notes. Nia Walker, 7 o'clock. The name alone felt too large in his head now. Keep it, he said. Min-seo made a sound that suggested she had already decided something was happening, even if she had not been invited into the details. Yes, sir. He ended the call and leaned back. For a while he said nothing. Then quietly, to no one at all, he said, You looked like you had never been chosen before. The driver did not turn around. He had learned better than to react to things said in the back seat of Yi Min's car. Yi Min shut his eyes again. He had not meant to say that aloud, but it was true, and the truth was inconvenient. That evening, Nia stood in front of her closet and regretted every decision she had ever made. The first dress was too formal. The second was too plain. The third made her look like she was trying too hard, which was its own kind of danger. She pulled a sleeve up over her shoulder, frowned at the mirror, then let it fall again. You're doing too much, she told herself. Then she looked at the clock and got quieter. 7 o'clock was not far away. Tasha was leaning in the doorway with her arms folded, watching her. "You've changed outfits 4 times," she said. Nia did not turn. "No, I haven't." "You have." "I haven't." Tasha smiled a little. "You're nervous." Nia shot her a look in the mirror. "You would be too." Tasha's smile faded by a fraction. "Maybe," she said, "but I wouldn't make such a big deal out of it." Nia looked away. There it was again, that careful little edge. Not enough to accuse, enough to sting. She chose the burgundy dress in the end because it fit well and made her feel like herself instead of a version of herself she was borrowing from somebody else. Simple, clean, soft at the waist, modest at the neck, elegant without trying to impress anybody. Tasha looked her up and down. "That's pretty," she said, "not beautiful, pretty." Again, Nia filed it away. "Thanks," Nia said. Tasha pushed off the doorframe. "You really are going." Nia picked up her bag. "Yes, you barely know him." "I know. That's not enough." Nia finally looked at her directly. "It might be enough for dinner." Tasha laughed, but it sounded forced. "You say that now?" Nia walked past her toward the hallway. There was something about the evening that made Tasha more restless than usual. Nia could feel it. She could not prove it yet, but it was there. As she reached the front door, her phone buzzed. A text. "Unknown number, 7 o'clock still works for you?" Nia stared at it, then typed back, "Yes." The reply came almost immediately. "Good." Then another message, "Don't let your friend make you late." Nia stopped walking. Her eyes narrowed slightly, because only one friend could possibly mean Tasha. She looked over her shoulder. Tasha was watching her from the hallway. Nia said carefully, "How did he know you were here?" Tasha shrugged too quickly. "Maybe because I've been here all evening." Nia kept her eyes on her. That answer was too fast, too neat. But the car horn outside saved the moment. Nia grabbed her purse and opened the door. The car waiting at the curb was sleek and black, the kind that made a street look more expensive just by being parked on it. The driver stepped out, opened the back door, and gave a small, respectful nod. "Ms. Walker." Nia hesitated before getting in. She looked back once. Tasha stood in the doorway, face unreadable now, one hand resting against the frame like she had forgotten to move. Then Nia got into the car. The interior smelled like cedar and something clean she could not name. The city moved past the window in long, bright strips. Her phone buzzed again. A second text from Yimin. "I know this is probably unusual for you." Nia stared at it for a moment before replying, "Probably." This time his response took a little longer, for both of us. That made her look up. The driver's expression did not change, but Nia had the strange feeling that the entire arrangement around her had already been decided long before she ever said yes. The restaurant turned out to be on a quiet upper floor overlooking the city. Soft lights, dark wood, low voices, no flashing signs or loud music. Nia stepped inside and immediately felt underdressed and overdressed at the same time. Yi Min was already there, standing, waiting. He looked different outside the lobby. Less formal but somehow more dangerous in his stillness. No tie, open collar, dark tailored jacket. The kind of man whose wealth did not need to announce itself because it had already arranged the room around him. When he saw her, his expression changed. Only slightly, but enough. Nia felt it. He was pleased, not in a possessive way, in a way that made her suddenly aware of how much effort she had put into this outfit. "That color suits you," he said. Nia blinked once. "Thank you." He stepped back and held out her chair for her. It was such an old-fashioned thing to do that it nearly startled her. She sat. He took his place across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Yi Min said, "You came." Nia gave him a look. "You asked." A quiet smile touched his mouth. "That is not always enough. Then you were lucky. I am beginning to suspect that." She laughed before she could stop herself, just a short laugh, but his eyes changed at the sound of it. Like he had been listening for that exact note and had just heard it. Nia became self-conscious immediately. He noticed that too. "You do that often," he said. "Do what? Laugh like you're apologizing for it?" Nia went still. That sentence landed too close to somewhere she kept locked. She looked down at the menu, not because she needed it, but because it gave her something to do with her hands. "I'm not apologizing." Yi Min leaned back slightly, studying her. "You are," he said, "but not to me." Nia lifted her gaze again. There it was, too accurate, too sharp. That was the problem with men who watched carefully. They did not just see what you wanted them to see. They saw around it. Before she could answer, the waiter arrived. The interruption helped. Dinner began in a slow, careful way. as though both of them understood that rushing would spoil it. Yi Min asked about her work first. Not in that flat, polite way people do when they are trying to be courteous and move on. He asked because he wanted details. And Nia, who was used to being talked over, found herself talking more than she intended to. About campaigns, about deadlines, about clients who wanted brilliance but did not understand the cost. About the relief of creating something from nothing. He listened, really listened. Sometimes he asked one question, sometimes two, never too many. By the second glass of water, Nia had realized something unsettling. He was not performing interest. He actually was interested. That made the room feel warmer and more dangerous. At one point, his phone lit up beside his plate. He glanced at it once, then turned it over without picking it up. Nia noticed. He noticed her noticing. "My mother," he said. "Strict?" she asked. "Enough. Loved." He considered that. "Yes. Both can be true," Nia said. His eyes held hers for a moment. "They are," he replied. That answer stayed with her longer than it should have. Because it sounded like a man who had lived inside expectations. For so long, he had stopped arguing with them. Somewhere near the middle of the meal, Yi Min asked, "What does your friend do?" Nia froze a little. "Tasha?" "Yes, she works in events sometimes." "Sometimes?" Nia gave a small shrug. "That's what she says." His expression suggested he understood more from that answer than she had meant to give. "Do you trust her?" he asked. The question was so direct it almost felt rude. Nia set her fork down carefully. "Why? I'm curious. About her. About what she means to you." That was worse, because the answer was not simple. Tasha had been in her life for years. Too long to dismiss easily, long enough to become habit, long enough to become the person she texted first, told things to first, defended first. And yet the little things had started to collect. The strange comments, the small digs, the way Tasha looked at her tonight when Yi Min had first asked her out. Nia was still thinking when she realized he had waited. He had not rushed her. He had not filled the silence. He had simply waited. Finally, she said, "I thought I did." Yi Min's face changed. Not dramatically, just enough for her to see that he understood exactly what that meant. He did not ask her to explain further. That, more than anything, made her want to. Before she could speak again, his phone rang. He looked at the screen, and for the first time that evening something in his composure shifted. Not fear, concern. He stood away from the table and answered in Korean. Nia caught only a few words, something about a driver, something about a car. Something about not now. His tone stayed controlled, but his jaw tightened. When he ended the call and sat back down, Nia could tell the dinner had changed. "You don't have to tell me," she said. His gaze lifted. "What? Whatever just happened, you don't have to explain." He was quiet for a second. Then unexpectedly he said, "My family can be difficult." Nia nodded once. "Most families are. Not like this." Something in his voice made her look at him harder. He was still calm, still elegant, but now she could hear the pressure underneath. And then she realized he had gone a little pale, just enough that most people would not notice. She did. "Are you okay?" she asked. That made him look almost surprised. "I am fine." "Yi Min." The way she said his name changed something. His eyes stayed on her. And for a brief, strange moment, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man trying very hard not to be seen at the exact wrong time. Then his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it. And this time he did not hide the message. Nia saw enough of the screen to catch one line. "Your mother is here." Her spine went rigid. Yi Min stood immediately. His chair slid back with a soft scrape. Nia looked up at him. "What does that mean?" He was already reaching for his coat. "It means," he said, voice suddenly very low, "that this evening may have been watched before it began." And when he looked at her again, all the warmth in the room seemed to thin out at once. Yi Min reached for Nia's hand before she could ask another question. Not to pull her, not to trap her, just enough to say, "Stay close." That alone told her more than his calm voice did. "What is going on?" she asked, getting to her feet. His jaw was tight now. "We need to leave." "No. You don't get to say that and act like it makes sense." He looked at her once, then toward the restaurant entrance. "I'll explain in the car." Nia's pulse was moving too fast. "No, you explain now." He opened his mouth, then stopped, because the hostess had just appeared at the edge of the room, smiling too professionally. "Mr. Han," she said carefully, "there is someone here asking for you." Yi Min's face went still. Nia looked from the hostess to him. "Who?" she asked. Nobody answered right away. Then a woman's voice came from the doorway, low, smooth, familiar in a way that made Nia's stomach drop before she even saw her face. Yi Min. He closed his eyes for half a second. That was all it took for Nia to understand. This was not a random interruption. This was personal. The woman stepped into view with the kind of poise that suggested she had never once entered a room unsure of the effect she would have. She was elegant, polished, and clearly not pleased to find Yi Min sitting with someone else. Her eyes moved to Nia briefly, then returned to him. And in that tiny pause, Nia understood the power dynamic instantly. This woman knew him, maybe very well. She said she was your mother, Nia said quietly. Yi Min did not look away from the woman. She is, Nia felt something inside her tight. His mother, of course. Of course the line had not been about romance. It had been about warning. The older woman's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at Nia again. And this is, she asked in Korean. Yi Min answered in the same language, too quickly for Nia to catch more than the shape of it. His mother's expression shifted, not friendly, not openly hostile either, just measured. Then she looked at Nia directly and switched to English. You are very beautiful, she said. Nia blinked, caught off guard. The compliment was real, but it did not feel warm. It felt like a test. Thank you, Nia said carefully. Yi Min's mother smiled faintly. You don't know what kind of room you've entered, do you? Nia looked at Yi Min, but he was staring at his mother now with a look she could not read. Mother, he said, voice low. The warning in that one word was clear. Nia's skin prickled. The older woman ignored it. I came because I was told you were entertaining yourself again, she said. Nia looked between them. Entertaining himself? She repeated before she could stop herself. Yi Min's eyes closed for a brief second. His mother's smile deepened just enough to be dangerous. Oh, she said. So she does have a voice. Nia stared. Yi Min spoke immediately. That's enough. But his mother did not stop. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze fixed on Nia with unsettling precision. I know who you are, she said. Nia did not move. Do you? She asked. The woman's eyes flickered, almost amused. You are the girl who makes my son forget where he is. The room seemed to go very quiet around that sentence. Nia looked at Yi Min. He looked like he wanted the floor to open under him. His mother kept going. You should be careful, she told Nia. Men with his name do not live simple lives. Nia lifted her chin slightly. I didn't ask for simple. That earned the first real change in the older woman's expression. Interest. Yi Min's hand tightened around the back of his chair. Then his mother said, no, but you may have asked for trouble without knowing it. Nia's lips parted. Before she could answer, Yi Min stood fully. We're leaving, he said. His mother raised one eyebrow. So quickly. I said we're leaving. She ignored him and looked back at Nia. Tell me, girl, do you know why he gave you the phone? Nia frowned. Because I needed one. A quiet laugh came from the older woman. No, she said. Because he wanted to see whether you would accept a gift from a man you didn't understand. Nia felt the words settle in a strange place. Yi Min's face had turned hard. His mother kept speaking, softer now. He is not foolish. If he has chosen you, there is a reason. Chosen, the word made Nia's breath catch. Chosen for what? But before she could ask, Yi Min stepped between them. That movement was subtle, protective, almost instinctive. Nia noticed. His mother noticed too. And apparently that was enough to confirm whatever she had come here to test. Her gaze sharpened. Very interesting, she murmured. Yi Min's voice turned colder. Stop talking. I am your mother, and I am grown. That shut the room down for a second. Nia watched the exchange, suddenly aware that the tension between them had nothing to do with her and everything to do with a history she had not been invited into. His mother looked at him for a long moment. Then her expression changed in the smallest possible way, not to softness, to calculation. You should come home tonight, she said. Yi Min's answer came instantly. No. The older woman's mouth pressed into a thin line. Nia could feel it now. Whatever had been happening before she arrived had been bigger than the dinner itself. Something old, family-level old, the kind of thing that did not disappear just because a room went quiet. The hostess returned, looking nervous now. Mr. Han, she said, there is another call for you. Yi Min did not look away from his mother. Ignore it. The hostess hesitated. Sir, it is from your uncle's office. That made him close his eyes again, just for a moment, but Nia saw it. His mother saw it too. And this time she smiled like someone who had just found a missing piece. Ah, she said softly, so it has started. Nia looked at her sharply. What has started? Nobody answered. Yi-min reached for Nia's arm, gentler than before. We need to go now, he said. She did not move. Not until you tell me what she means, he looked at her. And something in his face told her he was deciding how much truth she could carry. That irritated her. I'm not a child, she said. No, he said, you're not. His voice was low now, serious. That made her pay attention. Then he said, but tonight you may be standing too close to my family for your own safety. The words landed heavy. Nia's whole body went still. His mother, strangely, looked almost satisfied, as if she had wanted Nia to hear that, as if the fear itself were a useful tool. Nia pulled her arm back. So you asked me to dinner and now I'm suddenly in danger. Yi-min did not answer right away, which was an answer by itself. His silence was the worst part. Nia stared at him, then at his mother. Then back at him, and in that one terrible second she realized two things at once. First, Yi-min had not invited her into an ordinary evening. Second, he might not have fully understood what he was inviting her into either. His mother stepped back with elegant precision. Leave with her if you want, she said to Yi-min. But don't pretend you can keep this quiet much longer. Yi-min's face was unreadable now. He turned to Nia. We're going, he said again. And this time there was something in his voice that made her obey before she had even decided to. They had barely reached the entrance when a man in a dark suit stepped into their path. He was older. Stern, the kind of man who looked like he knew all the family secrets and was tired of carrying them. He spoke to Yi-min in Korean, short, sharp, urgent. Yi-min answered just as fast. Then the man looked at Nia. His expression shifted slightly. Recognition. Nia felt the air change. What? She asked. Nobody answered her. The man said something else to Yi-min, quieter this time. Yi-min's face changed. Not enough for most people to notice, enough for Nia. She stopped walking. What is it? He looked at her, and for the first time that night, he seemed to lose control of the room around him. Someone has been asking questions about your mother, he said. Nia's breath caught. My mother, yes. Who? Yi-min hesitated. Then he said the one name she had never expected to hear tonight. Your uncle. Nia stared at him. Every sound in the restaurant seemed to fall away. Her uncle here, asking questions about her mother, and Yi-min Han knew it before she did. Nia's mouth opened, but no words came out. Because suddenly the evening was not about a dinner, or a gift, or an unsettling family visit. It was about the fact that somebody had been looking for her long before she ever came here. And now they knew exactly where to find her. Nia felt the blood drain from her face. My uncle, she repeated, though she already knew that was what he had said. Yi-min's expression told her this was not a misunderstanding. Yes, he said. She looked at him like he had suddenly become a stranger all over again. Why would he be asking about my mother? Yi-min glanced toward the older man beside them, then back to her. Because he's been asking about her for a while. Nia's chest tightened. That makes no sense. It does if he's afraid of what she knew. The words hit hard. Nia took one step back. No, she whispered. No, you don't get to say things like that like they're normal. Yi-min's jaw flexed. He seemed to understand she was one breath away from leaving, so he softened his voice. Come with me, he said. I'll explain everything somewhere private. Nia stared at him. Around them, the restaurant had gone quiet in that careful way expensive places do when something feels wrong, but nobody wants to be rude enough to admit it. The older man in the suit had already turned away, speaking into his phone now, eyes scanning the room like he was counting exits. Nia's mind was racing so hard it almost hurt. Her uncle, her mother. The word danger, the way Yi-min's mother had looked at her like she was a question nobody wanted answered. She finally said, if I go with you, you tell me the truth. Yi-min met her gaze. Yes, all of it. Yes, no more half answers. His mouth tightened, but he nodded. All of it. That was enough, not because she trusted him completely, she didn't. But because she trusted the fear in his face more than the lies she already knew from her uncle. So she went. The car ride was silent at first. Nia sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap, staring out the window while the city blurred past. Yi-min did not speak until they were several blocks away from the restaurant. Then he said, your uncle's name is David Walker. Nia looked at him sharply. Yes, she said, that is my uncle. Yi-min nodded once. He has been looking for someone named Min Haijin. Nia frowned. My mother's name was Hana. Yi-min turned toward her. That's the name he gave you? Nia's stomach tightened. Yes, that was not her real name. The silence after that was brutal. Nia stared at him. What do you mean, not her real name? He looked down at his hands once before answering. Your mother was trying to disappear, he said. She used a false name. Nia felt her pulse jump. That's impossible. No. It's likely. Why would she do that? Because people were looking for her? Nia let out a shaky breath. Who? Yi-min did not answer immediately. That hesitation made her angry. Stop doing that, she said. Stop talking around me like I'm going to collapse if I hear something hard. His gaze stayed steady. I'm not talking around you, he said. I'm trying to keep this from becoming worse before I know exactly how much you already remember. Nia went still. What does that mean? He looked at her carefully. You told me before that you remembered smoke. Nia nodded slowly. Tell me what else. She looked away. The memory was there, not clean, not whole, but there, a hallway, a woman crying. Her mother's voice, a man telling her to be quiet, and then nothing. Nia swallowed. I remember being small, Yi-min waited. I remember my mother telling me to hide. His face sharpened. Where? She shook her head. I don't know. He was quiet for a beat. Then in the house that burned. Nia's breathing changed. The car felt smaller. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Because the name your uncle is searching for is not yours. She looked at him. He's not looking for you, Yi-min said. He's looking for what your mother took. Nia's mouth went dry. What did she take? Yi-min hesitated, and that hesitation was all the answer she needed. She turned toward him fully. What did she take? She repeated louder this time. A ledger, he said. Nia blinked. A what? A book, he said, with names, payments, transfers, and dates. It connected several people in your country to my family's company and to one private deal that should never have existed. Nia stared at him. None of it sounded real. It sounded like the sort of thing people in movies said when they wanted to sound important and mysterious. But Yi-min was not pretending. That much was obvious. So my mother stole it? She asked. No, he said immediately. She protected it. Nia looked down at her hands. Her brain was trying to catch up with her body, and both were losing. She knew what was in it. Yes, and my uncle, he knew she had it. Nia's throat tightened. Then why raise me? Yi-min's face changed in a way she did not understand at first. Then he said very quietly, to keep you close. The words were so simple they almost escaped her understanding. Then they landed, keep you close. A cold, sick feeling spread through her stomach. You think he was watching me? I think he was waiting. Nia stared straight ahead. The city lights outside the window were suddenly too bright, too far away, too normal. No, she said, but her voice was weak now. No, he raised me. Yi-min didn't argue with the emotion. He just said, that does not mean he was telling you the truth. That made her eyes sting. Not because it was new, because it made terrible sense. They arrived at his penthouse in silence. Nia had expected luxury, and there was plenty of that, but what struck her first was the quiet. The place felt sealed off from the city, like the air itself had been curated. Yi-min led her to a sitting room and told her to sit. She did, but only because her knees suddenly felt unreliable. He disappeared for less than a minute and came back with a slim black folder. Nia eyed it like it might bite her. What is that? Part of the truth. She looked up at him. That's a very dramatic answer. He almost smiled, but it didn't stay. He set the folder on the table and opened it. Photographs, old ones, a woman she recognized at once, her mother, younger. Serious, holding a folder in one hand, her face turned toward a man Nia did not know. Another photo, another room, another person. Nia felt something inside her crack. Where did you get these? My father's records. She looked at him sharply. Your father knew my mother? Yes. How? Yi-min's expression was unreadable now. Professionally at first, he said. Then not, Nia stared. He closed the folder partway, then opened it again and pulled out the paper beneath the photos. This, he said, was copied from the ledger your mother hid. Nia leaned forward despite herself. It was names, companies, amounts, dates. And beside some of the names were handwritten notes in red ink. One of those names was her Uncle S. Her breath stopped. That can't be right. Yi-min said nothing. Her eyes moved across the page. Then she saw another name, and another. Men her mother had apparently been meeting with, people connected to the same business circle Yi-min's family was in. Nia looked up slowly. My uncle was involved in this? Yes. Were you? He met her gaze. Yes. The single word filled the room like smoke. Nia stood too fast, the chair sliding back behind her. You were involved in this, and you asked me to dinner. His face did not change, but his voice lowered. I asked you to dinner because I wanted to see you without your uncle in the room. That is not a reason. It is for me. No, it's not, she snapped. He held her stare. And that only made her angrier because he wasn't dodging her anymore. He was finally speaking plainly. I was trying to understand why your mother's name had come back up after 10 years, he said. And then I saw you, Nia laughed once sharply. So I'm just a clue to you. No, what am I then? His eyes held hers. For a long moment he did not answer. When he did, his voice was quieter than before. You're the only person in years who made me stop thinking like a man raised inside damage. The answer caught her so completely off guard that she had no immediate response. He stepped closer, slow enough not to startle her. I did not mean to pull you into this, he said, but you were already in it before you met me. Nia's anger was still there. But under it now was something else, a cold, spreading fear. Where is my mother? She asked. Yi Min looked away. That alone made her pulse jump. Yi Min, he faced her again. I don't know. The room went silent. Nia stared at him for a full second, then another, and then she said the one thing she had been trying not to think for days. You think she's alive? He did not answer, which was an answer. Nia pressed a hand to her mouth. Her knees nearly gave out. Because if her mother was alive, then every lie she had lived with suddenly became something bigger. And if her mother was alive, then someone had kept that truth from her on purpose. The silence between them stretched until a faint sound came from somewhere deeper in the penthouse. A door, opening. Yi Min turned first. His face changed immediately. Nia followed his gaze toward the hallway, and then she saw someone standing there in the dark. A woman, not Yi Min's mother, not a stranger either. Nia knew that face. Her blood turned cold. Because the person standing in the doorway, watching them without blinking, was Tasha. Tasha stood in the doorway like she had every right to be there. For one long second, nobody moved. Nia just stared. Her mind tried to reject it first because it was easier to believe anything else. A trick, a mistake, a woman who looked like Tasha. But the face, the posture, the slight lift of her chin when she realized she'd been seen, it was her. Tasha slowly stepped into the room. You really did it, she said, her voice calm in a way that made it worse. You actually came here? Nia's stomach dropped. Why are you here? She asked. Tasha looked at her, then at Yi Min, and gave a small, bitter smile. Because I got tired of waiting, she said. Yi Min's expression was unreadable, but his whole body had gone still. Nia turned to him. You knew she was here? No, he said immediately. I didn't. Tasha laughed softly. Don't insult me, she said. You knew more than you were saying. Nia looked from one to the other, her chest tightening. What is going on? She demanded. Why are you in his house? Tasha's eyes stayed on Nia. Because I've been trying to save you. Nia let out a short, disbelieving breath. Save me from what? Tasha's face changed, and that was when Nia finally saw it. Not the polished friend she'd grown used to. Not the easy smiles, not the fake concern, not the sweet voice. Fear, real fear. Tasha was scared. Of Yi Min, of the room. Of what had already been set in motion. Nia's voice came out quieter now. Tasha, Tasha swallowed. Your uncle found me first. The words hit like a slap. Nia went still. What did you just say? Tasha looked away. He asked questions, a lot of them, about your mother, about the old house, about the night everything changed. Yi Min's gaze sharpened. You spoke to him? Tasha gave a sharp laugh that sounded too close to panic. I had to, she snapped. Do you think I wanted any part of this? Nia stared at her. What part? Tasha looked at her for a long beat. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Nia's breath caught. It looked old, worn at the edges. Like it had been hidden and handled too many times. Tasha held it out with a shaking hand. Your mother gave this to me, she said. Nia did not move. That could not be right. Her mother had been missing for years. Tasha swallowed hard. Not before she disappeared, after. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Nia stared at the envelope as though it might vanish if she blinked. After, she repeated, yes. Yi Min looked at the envelope, then at Tasha. You're lying. I wish I was. Nia took one step forward. Open it. Tasha's fingers tightened around the paper. I was supposed to give it to you only if something happened to me. Yi Min's voice was hard now. Give it to her. Tasha flinched, then did it. Nia took the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was written across the front in her mother's handwriting. She almost couldn't breathe. It was real. She knew it was real the second her fingertips touched it. The paper inside was folded once. Then again, Nia opened it slowly. Her mother's handwriting blurred as tears gathered too quickly in her eyes. Nia, if you are reading this, then I failed to keep you away from the truth. You were never supposed to grow up inside that house. You were never supposed to trust David. Nia's vision went blurry. Yi-min took one careful step closer, but she didn't look at him. She kept reading. The truth is in the wall behind the blue cabinet. If I am gone, that is where you will find what was hidden from you. Do not let anyone tell you that I left because I didn't love you. I stayed as long as I could. The paper shook in her hands. She turned it over, but there was more on the back. If Tasha gives you this, then she has finally chosen the right side. Trust her. Do not trust your uncle. And if Yi-min Han is still alive, then he is not your enemy. Nia went completely still. Her eyes lifted slowly to Yi-min. He was watching her now with a look she had never seen before, not triumph. Not relief, something darker, something burdened. She looked back at Tasha, who had tears in her eyes now and no longer seemed capable of pretending. You knew, Nia whispered. You knew my mother was alive. Tasha shook her head. No. I knew she wasn't dead the way they said. Yi-min's voice was low. What exactly did your uncle tell you? Tasha let out a shaky breath. That she ran away, that she abandoned Nia. That if she ever came back, she'd only bring trouble. Nia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tasha wiped her face quickly, angry at her own tears. I believed him, she said. For too long, I believed him. Nia's hands trembled around the letter. Why tell me now? Tasha looked at her straight on. Because he came for me yesterday. The room went silent. He knew I'd started asking questions, she said. He wanted the letter. He wanted me to hand you over if I found you first. Nia's stomach turned. Yi-min's jaw tightened. Tasha turned toward him now, anger rising through her fear. And you, she said, you're no better. You've known enough to keep this going. Yi-min did not deny it. That answer hurt Nia more than she expected. Is that true? She asked. He held her gaze for a long second. Then he said, I knew your mother was part of something my family should never have touched. That is not an answer. It's the only one I had then. Nia laughed, but it was hollow. You brought me here while knowing my family was tied to all of this. I brought you here because I thought I could protect you long enough to understand what was missing. Tears burned behind her. Eyes now. But she refused to let them fall yet. You let me sit across from you and talk like none of this mattered. No, he said quietly. I sat there because it mattered too much. Tasha looked between them, then took a slow breath. There's something else, she said. Yi-min turned to her immediately. What? Tasha's face tightened. The blue cabinet isn't the only thing she left behind. Nia stared at her. Tasha's voice dropped. There's a key, Nia frowned. A key to what? Tasha looked at her and answered in a whisper. To the room where your mother was kept. Nia went cold all over. Yi-min's expression changed instantly. Where is it? He asked. Tasha shook her head once. Your uncle has it. Nia's body started to feel unreal, like the floor had moved farther away. My uncle has the key. Yes, and you're just telling me now? Tasha looked ashamed. I didn't know for sure until he mentioned the room by name. Silence followed. Then Yi-min said, we need to leave now. Nia looked up at him. Why? His face had turned hard again. Because if he knows that you know about the room, he'll move before dawn. Those words sent a chill straight through her. Tasha stepped back. He already has people watching the building. Nia stared. What building? Tasha looked at her, pained. The old house. Everything in Nia went tight. The old house, the one she'd barely remembered. The one from the smoke. The one that had lived in fragments in her mind for years without ever becoming clear. Yi-min made a decision in one breath. He crossed to the desk, snatched up his phone, and started giving commands in Korean too quickly for Nia to follow. She watched him, then looked at Tasha. Why are you helping me? She asked quietly. Tasha's eyes filled again. Because I'm tired of being the person who stood by while people lied to you. The answer sat heavily in the room. Nia nodded once, though she didn't fully trust it yet. She wasn't ready to trust anyone fully. Maybe not ever again. But she could feel the shape of the truth now, finally pressing against the walls of her life from the inside. And once a truth started pushing, it did not stop. An hour later, they were in the car again, this time moving toward the old house. Nia sat in the back with the letter clenched in one hand, and the key Tasha had managed to find in the lining of an old purse hidden at her apartment in the other. Yi-min sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Tasha rode in the front, quiet and pale. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Nia said, "If this turns out to be another lie, I will never forgive either of you." Tasha nodded once without looking back. Yi-min looked at her. "I know." That answer should have angered her. Instead, it made something inside her hurt, because he really did know. The house was still there, smaller than memory, or maybe memory had made it larger because of what it had held. The gate was half open. The windows were dark. Yi-min got out first, scanning the property with a kind of tense alertness that told Nia he had already prepared for trouble. Tasha's voice shook. "He's been here." Nia looked at the house, then at the key in her hand, then at the letter from her mother. Her pulse was loud in her ears. Yi-min held out his hand. "Stay behind me." Nia looked at him. For a second, she almost refused on principle. Then she realized that this time, protection did not feel like possession. It felt like fear with a plan. So she took his hand. The front door opened too easily. Inside, the air smelled old, dry, and wrong. Nia's breathing changed the moment she stepped in. The hallway was narrow. The walls were lined with faded frames, and at the end of the corridor was the blue cabinet. Her mother had written that clearly, behind it. Nia moved first, but Yi-min stopped her gently with a hand to her shoulder. "Let me check," he said. She wanted to argue. Instead, she watched as he shifted the cabinet carefully away from the wall. Behind it was a narrow gap, and inside that gap, wrapped in cloth, was a metal box. Tasha made a sound behind them. Nia knelt slowly and picked it up with both hands. Her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped it. Yi-min crouched beside her. "Open it." She did. Inside were photographs, letters, a small recorder, and a second envelope addressed to her uncle. Nia looked at it like her whole life had just split open in her lap. The recorder was the first thing she touched. Her thumb pressed play. At first, there was only static, then her mother's voice. Nia nearly broke right there. "If you're hearing this," her mother said, "then they lied too long." Nia covered her mouth. The voice continued, strained but clear. "David was never supposed to raise you. He was supposed to hide you until the debt was paid. Yi-min knows some of this, but not all. If he is with you now, then maybe he finally chose the right side. My daughter, listen carefully. The people around you will try to make you think love and protection are the same thing. They are not. The truth may hurt, but it will give you back your name." Nia couldn't stop the tears anymore. They spilled quietly down her face while the room held its breath around her. Then another voice came through the recorder. A man's voice, older, angry, her uncle. "She will never leave this house," he said. "Not until we say so." Nia went completely still. The recording continued. Her mother sounded frightened now. "You can't keep her here." His reply came cold and sharp. "I can and I will." "You should have cooperated." Nia made a broken sound without meaning to. Yi-min's hand touched the floor beside hers, close enough to steady without forcing. The recorder clicked off. The silence that followed felt enormous. Tasha had one hand over her mouth now, crying openly. Nia looked down into the box and saw one final object, a small locket, her mother's. Nia picked it up, opened it, and found a tiny folded piece of paper tucked inside. One line, only one: "Your father is not dead." The world stopped. Nia looked up slowly, unable to breathe. Yi-min stared at the locket, then at her face, and something in his expression changed forever, because he understood what she had just learned before she even said it. And somewhere deep in the house, a floorboard creaked. All three of them turned. Someone was inside. Nia's whole body went cold. Then a voice came from the dark hallway, low, male, unmistakable. "Put the box down, Nia." She knew that voice, her uncle. And for the first time in her life, she heard him without the mask, the real him, the one she had been living with all along. Yi-min moved in front of her instantly. Tasha stumbled back, trembling. Nia stood very still, the locket in her hand. Her uncle stepped into the dim light, and the look on his face was not one of surprise. It was disappointment, as though she had ruined something he had worked a long time to keep hidden. "Your mother really shouldn't have written that note," he said. Nia's voice came out thin but steady. "Where is she?" He smiled, and it was the ugliest thing she had ever seen. "You still think this story is about finding her?" he said. Nia's heart hammered so hard it hurt. He looked at Yi-min, then at Tasha, then back at her. "No," he said. "It's about what she cost us all." Yi Min's body tightened beside her. Nia lifted her chin. The fear was there, but something else had replaced it. Not courage exactly, something older. Something born from being lied to long enough that truth became a weapon. "You lied to me," she said. "Yes. You used me." "Yes." Her voice shook, but she kept going. "You raised me for this?" "Yes." And then he stepped one pace forward and said the thing that shattered the room. "You were never meant to survive long enough to ask questions." Silence fell like a blade. Tasha made a strangled sound. Yi Min moved at the same moment Nia did not. Because Nia had finally gone still in a way that meant something inside her had turned from hurt into purpose. She looked at her uncle, then at the box, then at the recorder, then at the locket in her hand, and she understood. Her mother had left her a map. Yi Min had been hiding pieces of the truth. Tasha had been trying to make amends. And the man who had raised her had been building a cage around her life since childhood. Nia looked straight at him and said very quietly, "You picked the wrong woman to lie to." For the first time, his smile disappeared. Yi Min reached for the recorder. Tasha grabbed the envelope for the uncle. Nia stepped back with the locket held tight in her palm. And in that old house, under the weight of years of betrayal, every secret finally broke open at once.